start. First of all, I'd like to, before I can't forget this, the Shiur tonight is for Refuah Shalema of Liz Bat Hava. First of all, I'd like to thank Chazaq for arranging this. Yaniv is a powerhouse. He's just so lishma, so driven and so focused. I want to thank him. I want to thank the shul for opening the doors. Before I give the share, I want to mention, because sometimes I forget, there are a number of things that are available outside. There's the new Shmuz on the Parsha book. There's a Finding and Keeping Your Soulmate book. How many people are still looking? Everyone. I hope not everyone. I hope not everyone. I saw some wives come in, so I hope not everyone. But okay, in any case, Finding and Keeping Your Soulmate book is available. Very important. This is something that just came out. It's called the Marriage Seminar. It's a very extensive series. It's a 12-part series that deals with a lot of the basics of marriage. It's something that to be honest with you, I've been dealing with married couples now for a good while, and everybody waits to get married, and then a lot of times you get married and you find out that you knew nothing about marriage, and it's not quite as beautiful as you thought it was. And a lot of times the reason is because both husband and wife don't understand the mechanics, they don't understand the relationship. So it's a very extensive, it's 12 shiurim. It goes through a lot of the issues of understanding your spouse, understanding your relationship. So whether you're married or not, I highly recommend it. It's heavily sponsored, so even though it's a very extensive series, it's available for $35 because Baruch Hashem, we got a lot of sponsors to get behind it, so I highly recommend it. They'll be available after the Shiur. I'm sorry? Aravit? There will be Aravit after the Shiur. Okay. Okay, the topic this evening is billed as dating and marriage. And what I'd like to do is see if we can bring this into a perspective as Torah Jews, understand how a Jew should approach this situation as any situation. And really to understand how to do that, I think we have to grapple with the most difficult problem that we are faced with. And that is the balance between emunah and ishtadlus. What is Hashem's role? What's my role? If I accept that Hashem is involved in the running of the world, so what am I supposed to be doing? How much bitachon, how much trust, how much involvement? Getting this balance is one of the most difficult jobs that we have. And I'd like to spend some time on it this evening, and then we'll see how it applies to life and then marriage, dating, the whole routine. So let's begin with what I consider an obvious contradiction. A very well-known Gemara, the amount of money that a person is to make is set on Rosh Hashanah, chutz me'otzah Shabbos, with the exception of monies that he spends on Shabbos, hotzos Yom Tov, and hotzos banav Talmud Torah. Every penny that you're to make this year, whether it's $50,000, $500,000, $5 million, the exact dollar amount is set on Rosh Hashanah, with the exception of these three areas. Monies that you spend on Shabbos, if you spend more, they'll give you more. You spend less, they'll give you less. Monies that you spend on Yom Tov, and monies that you spend on your children's Torah education. In those three areas, it's sort of a flex account. The more you spend, the more you get back. But outside those three areas, the exact dollar amount that you are to make this year is set on Rosh Hashanah. And that's a well-known concept, a well-known Gemara. The problem is that seems to be a contradiction to another statement the Gemara makes. The Gemara says, Daled dvarim srichim chizuk. There are four things that a person has to constantly give himself motivation, psych himself up, give himself a real pep talk all the time about. What are those four things? Torah, tefillah, derech eretz, ma'asim tovim. Torah, a person requires motivation. It's not easy to see the reward for learning Torah. It's difficult sometimes to do it. Ma'asim tovim also makes sense. It's hard to be other-centered. We as human beings have at least half of us that are completely self-centered. For me to look out for the interests of another human being is difficult. I understand that. Tefillah, davening, is also difficult. For me to understand that I'm speaking to my Creator right here. That I'm speaking to Hashem not 13 billion light years up in heaven. That I'm speaking to Hashem right here requires chizuk, requires motivation, requires focus. So the first three areas I understand. But the fourth area that a person must constantly be mechazek himself, constantly gives himself chizuk, is something called derech eretz, and Rashi explains what that means. Im uman lumnaso, if he is a merchant, he has to go out there, study the marketplace, and get up early in the morning, and with tremendous zeal and energy go out there and earn his living. If he's a craftsman, he has to learn his craft and work at it very, very diligently. If he's a warrior, he has to gird his loins, hold his sword, and fight with tremendous energy. This is one of the areas that a person has to constantly be mechazik himself, constantly motivate himself, constantly give himself pep shmuz about. So here's the question. If the amount of money that I'm to make this year is set on Rosh Hashanah, what do I need all this chizuk about? What do I need all this motivation, all this drive, get up early, work so hard? If I'm to make a certain amount of money, that amount of money is set, what do I have to work so hard for? A few hours a day, 2-3 hours maximum. But why would the Gemara say that you have to constantly be mechazik yourself, work very hard, focus on it, give yourself constant motivational speeches? It should be enough if you just go out there and do a little bit, because the dollar amount is set by Hashem, and these two Gemaras sound to be contradictory. And I'd like to see if we can answer this contradiction and better understand what is expected from us. And to do that, let's focus on Hashem's role first, Hashem's part in the equation, and then we'll see if we can understand our part. So to focus on Hashem's part, let me share with you an interesting thought. There's a losase in the Torah. It is forbidden for a Jew to take nekama. If you did bad to me, I'm forbidden to take revenge. Now, normally we understand that as humanistic. Listen, if you've done me an ill, if I take revenge against you, it's going to cause unrest, it's going to cause social, it's going to cause machlokas, there'll be a lot of issues. So we normally understand that don't take revenge because it'll be better for the community, better for people, life will be better. Now that may be true, but the Sefer Chinuch says that's not the reason for the mitzvah. He says don't take revenge. Why? Because if you take revenge, you're imputing powers to man. You're pretending that man has power that he doesn't have. If you take revenge, you're pretending that that human being can harm you. And explains the Sefer Chinuch, you have to understand that no human being can harm you. If that pain wasn't destined to come to you, he couldn't touch you. And if that pain was destined to come to you, there's nothing that he could have done to stop it or anyone else. You would have suffered that. When you take revenge, you're pretending that that human being controls your destiny. And you have to understand the basics of our Emunah system is that no human being can harm me. Everything is decreed by Hashem, and Hashem controls everything. And the Chofetz Chaim explains this at length. He says the underpinnings, the basics of our Emunah system is understanding that no human being can harm me, no human being can help me. You can dream, you can scheme. If this pain is not coming to me, you will not be able to affect me. If you'd like to understand life from this perspective, imagine when you're walking down the street, there's a lucite bubble that protects me. You can try to throw stones, you can try to punch. You cannot penetrate that bubble. There's no lucite bubble, but Hashem is there. Hashem is with me 24/7, 365, guarding exactly that which is supposed to happen. And that's the underpinning, the basics of our Emunah system. And I'd like to share with you how far that goes. I had a teacher when I was a little kid who taught us how to take a compliment. I remember very clearly she said to us, don't squirm, don't turn away. When someone gives you a compliment, you look them in the eye and you say, thank you very much. Now, that's a good life lesson, how to take a compliment. But I never had a teacher who taught me how to take an insult. But the Chofetz Chaim says, I'll teach you how to take an insult. When someone rips into you, when someone cuts into the essence of you, you're supposed to turn your eyes heavenward and say, thank you, Hashem, for revealing a little of my many flaws. Because I have to understand that those words would not have come to me. That pain would not have come to me if it weren't for Hashem. You're but the loudspeaker. I didn't ask you to be the nudnik. I didn't ask you to be the one to deliver it. But if it weren't coming to me, you could not have changed my destiny. And if that pain was coming to me, If you hadn't said it, I would have slipped on the stairs on the way up. I would have spilled a cup of hot soup. That embarrassment, that pain was destined to come from me, and you can't change my destiny. And if you'd like to really understand this, I have a mashal that I think helps a little bit. Imagine I'm speaking to you. Imagine it's a big room and I'm speaking through a microphone and to a loudspeaker. Okay. And at a certain point, I pick one person, I say, you're a bleebity, I start calling you names, and I embarrass you, and you turn red, you turn white, you're furious. How can I say it in public? You stand up, you walk over to the speaker, wow! You punch it right in the subwoofer. Now, if you walked over to me and punched me in the jaw, we could debate whether it's clever or not. But you don't punch the loudspeaker. There's a person speaking into the microphone and the sound comes out of the speaker. It explains the Chofetz Chaim, you have to understand that no human being can harm you. Those words were coming to you. Those words are being directed to you. Again, I didn't ask you to be the delivery boy, but those words were coming to me because no human being can harm me. And as no human being can harm me, no human being can help me. My uncle could be the head of Sloan Kettering, but if my time is up, there's nothing he's going to do to change things. You could be the wealthiest fellow in North America. If this money wasn't destined to come to me, you'll donate huge amounts to me. It'll come in one pocket, go out the other. And understanding that no human being can harm me, no human being can help me, is the basics of our entire belief system, the basics of our tefillah, the basics of what it means to be a Jew. And I guess we could call that Hashem's role in the equation. That's Hashem's part. Constantly there, 24/7, 365, with me when I open my eyes in the morning, with me when I close my eyes at night, with me when I get on that highway. 50,000 deaths on the U.S. highway system every year. Anybody ever get on the highway and go, oh, 50,000? That's more soldiers than died in Vietnam. 10 times more than died in Iraq. Oh my goodness. 50 every year? I'm not driving on the highway anymore. I'm going to stick on local streets. Sorry to tell you, there's a greater incidence of accidents on local streets than on highway. I'm not driving anymore. Would you like to know why you shouldn't feel that fear? Because when you get behind the wheel of the car, you're supposed to know Hashem is here. Hashem is with me as I walk up the stairs. Hashem is with me as I walk down the stairs. Hashem is with me as I step into that elevator, and I trust fully that I'll arrive on the 86th floor. The cables won't snap. The elevator cab won't not be there. But understanding that Hashem orchestrates this world, delivers exactly that which is supposed to be. Hashem is with me 24/7, is again the underpinnings of our Emunah system, and is what I call Hashem's role. Hashem runs the world. Okay, so the problem then is, good. So what's our part? If Hashem controls destinies, determines how much money, every result, so what's our role in the equation? What's our part? So to understand this, I'd like to share with you something from a different part of the Torah. Rabbi Benzion Shafier makes a very important observation. He says there are certain parts of the Torah that are extraordinarily brief and certain parts that are very lengthy. He says, look at Parshas Noach. We have a very detailed description of the Teva. 300 amas long, 50 amas wide, 30 amas tall. Ask Rabbi Benzion Shafier, what in the world do we need to know that information? Why do we need to know the length, the dimensions, the depth? Why is it relevant to us thousands of years later? Explains Rabbi Benzion Shafier in the Chumash, he says, there's a tremendous lesson to us. You see, if you do the math, let's assume an amma is about 2 feet. 300 amas means it's about 600 feet long, maybe 100 feet wide, 60 feet tall. If you think of all the animals in creation, you'll quickly realize they couldn't possibly fit into a boat that small. The Bronx Zoo is on 265 acres, and they don't house all the animals in creation. Explains Rabbi Benzion Shafier that if you had 50 such tevas, and 50 such arks that couldn't possibly contain all the animals in creation, rather Noah was commanded to build something as much as he could. And then Rabbi Benzion Shafier says, and this is an operating principle in the Torah, he says throughout the Torah you'll see that a human being is commanded with doing as much as he can. And only when he's exhausted as much as he can possibly do, then he's allowed to be Somech al hanes, relying on the miracle. Explains Rabbi Yochai, Hashem was saying to Noah, you have to build a teva. You can't just rely on miracles. You have to build a boat. Now, you can't possibly build a boat large enough to contain the rhinoceros, the elephants, the giraffes. You can't possibly build a boat big enough. Build as much as you can, and once you've exhausted the derech hateva, once you've used the ways of the world as much as you can, then you can rely on the miracle. But only once you've exhausted the derech hateva, once you've done as much as you can in the ways of the world, then you can rely on the miracle. And explains Rabbi Benzion that that's an operating principle that you'll find throughout Tanakh. Everywhere, over and over, man is commanded to use this world in the ways of the world, and only once he's exhausted his efforts, then he can rely on a miracle. He says, for instance, Yeshua was commanded to take the Jewish nation into Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael at the time was occupied by giants. Each of the cities was fortified. There were tremendous fortifications, and they knew that according to the ways of the world, they couldn't possibly win. Yet every battle was won miraculously. Every battle against huge, powerful armies, the enemies were destroyed, and not a single Jewish soldier died. In one battle, when one Jewish soldier died, the question was, what happened? So it says Rabbi Benzion, so wait a minute. Why then did Yeshua command the Jews, sharpen your swords, put on your armor, get ready for battle? They knew anyway it had to be a miracle. They knew anyway they're going to win these wars with tremendous nisim. Explains Rabbi Benzion, because this is the principle. You have to do whatever you can in the ways of the world. Once you've exhausted that, then you can rely on the miracle, but not a moment before. They have to put on their armor, sharpen their swords, get ready for battle, because that's the ways of the world. And once you've done that, then you can rely on Hashem, but not a minute before. And the Chofetz Chaim brings a phenomenal case of exactly this concept. He says, listen very carefully. Hashem says to Shmuel, Ma'asti, I'm disgusted with Shaul. I no longer want Shaul to be the king. I want you to go to Yishai. One of his sons will be the future king. Says Shmuel, Eich Elech. How can I go? V'shama Shaul will hear, V'hargeni, and he'll kill me. Says Hashem back to Shmuel, Eglach Bakar Tikach Be'edecha. Take a little calf. You'll tell Shaul that you're bringing a carbon. He'll fall for the trick. That's in fact what Shmuel did. The Chofetz Chaim says, wait a minute. Hashem should have blasted him. A chutzpah, you're afraid of Shaul, a king, flesh and blood? I am the creator of the heavens and the earth. Who gives life? And you tell me you're afraid of a king? But not only did Hashem blast Shmuel, Hashem said, you're right. Okay, here's the plan. Take this little eagle, take this little calf, and you'll tell Shaul that you bring the carbon. Explains the Chofetz Chaim, why didn't Hashem blast Shmuel? Because what Shmuel did was right. There was a makam sakana, it was dangerous. And even a Novi Hashem, a prophet, when Hashem is speaking to him directly, has no right to violate the derech hateva, the way of nature, because in all activities a person has to go in the ways of the world, and once he's exhausted, once he's done as much as he can, then he can rely on the miracle, but not a minute before. And if you'd like to know the answer to both of these Gemaras, they're absolutely consistent. There's no contradiction. I have to know that the amount of money I am to make this year is set on Rosh Hashanah. Not a penny more and not a penny less. But I still have my job to do. My job is to use the world in the ways of the world. If I'm sick, I go to a doctor. But not to a doctor. I go to the best medical practitioner I can find, and I get a second opinion and a third opinion. And once I've exhausted all of my efforts, then I say the words, Hashem, you run the world. Whether I live, whether I die, whether I'm healthy, whether I'm sick, it's up to you. I've done my part, now it's up to you. But both of these Gemaras are consistent. Hashem decrees exactly how much money I have to make, but I got to go out there and earn a living. And if I'm a merchant, I have to study the marketplace. I have to use my wisdom. I have to get up early in the morning and work very diligently, be very focused, because that's the ways of the world. That's a derech hateva. And all the while I'm going through the motions, I have to recognize that the motions don't determine the outcome. I'm commanded to do this. This is the way Hashem wants me to use the world. But it's not this effort that brings the result. Whatever the result is going to happen, but I still have to do my part. And this concept is very, very difficult to really get a grip on and really apply. And I have a mashal, a parable that I think makes it a little bit easier. Imagine the following. Imagine you had a Broadway play. And imagine at the end of the play, the two stars, two men, get into a fight. One punches, the other kicks, and they grab each other and grappling, and they're rolling on the floor. The curtain comes down, play is over. Okay. 10 minutes after you go backstage, and you see the two actors, one slaps the other one on the back, says, "Whoa, you kicked him, and it was great. Oh, and you punched, it barely died. You were great. What are you guys doing? Laughing, slapping each other. 10 minutes ago, you were on the floor, struggling, kicking each other." We weren't on the floor. There was a choreographed fight scene. We were going through the motions. I was supposed to punch, he was supposed to duck. And that's our hishtadlus. I have to go out there, and to all intents and purposes, to everyone watching me, it looks like I'm the one who's determining it, and I have to know that what I do doesn't affect the outcome whatsoever. Exactly that which Hashem decreed will be, not an iota less, not an iota more, and I have to go out there and be very diligent, very focused, knowing that it will not make a difference in terms of what's going to happen. And this balance is something that we're challenged with throughout every activity, throughout the gamut of all of our life's issues. We have to be very focused on using the world the way Hashem wants us to, and we have to know that there's a creator of the heavens and earth who orchestrates everything. And interestingly enough, the Chofetz Chaim gives us a system to earn a living. He says, how should you earn your living? How should you make a living? He says, really, it's quite simple. Hashem gives a teva, gives a nature to every one of the animals in the wild kingdom. The robin instinctively hungers for the worm. The lion instinctively hunts the deer. The robin doesn't sit down and say, based on the general availability as well as the nutritional value, I think I'll use the worm as my food staple. There's an instinct, there's a desire, there's an inborn nature into each of the animals in creation how to earn its keep. And as Hashem gave each of the animals in the wild kingdom an instinct, a desire to earn its living, so too did Hashem give each human being an instinct and a desire for a particular type of malacha, a particular type of activity via which they should earn their living. You ever notice some people are just really good with their hands? Some people are very, very creative. Some people are number guys. Some people are salesmen. Hashem gave each person a different nature, a different inclination. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to follow that. That's your hishtadlus, that's your effort in the world. And you're supposed to know that exactly that which Hashem determined is what's going to be. If my nature is to be a salesman, that's my nature. I have to go out there and ask myself, how could I use my skills? How could I use my strengths? It's obvious that this is how Hashem wants me to earn my living. How could I use it in the wisest way? And then I go out there and earn my living thereby. And if I decide that I want to make more money, or I don't like that type of way of earning a living, I won't make a penny more or a penny less. I remember I was a high school Rebbe for many years, and there was a fellow who was super into cars. He used to always be fixing his car, other guy's car. He was always working on cars. This is a kid who slept with a Chilton book. You guys know the part, big, thick, green part book. He used to sleep with it under his pillow. I mean, this guy was super into cars. Okay, so after he left Yeshiva and he went to work, I didn't see him for a good while. I met him a number of years after. And I said, "Hi, Shalom Aleichem, how you doing?" And at some point I said, "What do you do now?" And he told me he works in an office. I said, "You work in an office? I said, for sure you'd be owning a body repair shop, a car, something in cars." I don't get it. He said, "Well, I'll tell you the truth, I would love to do that, but I didn't want to show up to shul on Shabbos with grease under my fingernails. It wasn't coveted, so I decided I'm not going to do it." And I sat this young man down, I said to him, "Fellow, I got a question for you. You have an inclination, you have a talent, and this is what you enjoy. What do you think you're going to do better at? What do you think you're going to be more satisfied at? And if you use the inclination and you use the nature that Hashem gave you, and you use it wisely, you have every right to say, Hashem, I've done my part, now it's up to you. But if you decide I want to make more money or I want more honor or whatever, and you use different venues to earn your living, all bets are off because you've taken control. You're not using Hashem's system, you're using your own." And I've seen, interestingly, sometimes, there was a fellow who was a he just loved working with food. That was really what he was just natural at, but he decided he wanted to make more money. So he became a dentist. Interestingly enough, as a dentist, he barely eked out a living, had a terrible practice, but on the side he began these Pesach programs and he made a fortune of money. And what you begin studying and you begin understanding when you study the human and conditions, and understand that there's a creator to the heavens and the earth who runs the world, who expects certain things from me. I'm supposed to act in a given way, and Hashem determines what the results will be. My job is to use the world in the ways of the world, and Hashem determines the outcome. But again, my job is to go in a derech hateva, knowing full well that exactly that which Hashem will want will be. And this concept is something that challenges us in every area of life, certainly in terms of earning a living, certainly in terms of health, well-being, and interestingly enough, it also affects how we go out. When it's time for a person to settle down and find their basher, their soulmate, there is a specific way that the Torah expects us to do that. And I'd like to define it for you very simply. If you'd like to know the right hishtadlus, what is the right way that a Jew should go out? There are two things you have to do. There's the paper test, and then there's the basher test. Okay. The paper test is before either party meets, before there's any involvement whatsoever, you look on paper, do the two line up? Are they looking for the same things in life? Are they looking to raise the same kind of family, have the same kind of home? If he wants to learn for the next 10 years and she only shops in Saks Fifth Avenue, we got a problem. The paper test is very simple. On paper, do they sort of match up? Are they looking for the same sort of things? Are they looking to bring the same family into the Jewish nation? That's the paper test, and that's pretty simple. And then comes the basher test. The basher test is you go out with this person and you see one thing. Does it just sort of work? Is it just sort of natural? Is it a sort of commonality, a sort of comfort level? It's not rockets on the 4th of July. It's not like, ooh, wild, passionate love, whoa. It's a very simple sort of, it feels right. It just feels the conversations flow. I look forward to the dates. It's just enjoyable. It just feels right. And whenever I say this, everyone shakes their hand and goes, right, that's exactly what I do. Everyone goes out that way, right? Wrong. Nobody does that. Would you like to know what everybody, you included, do? It's very simple. Before they go out, they make a laundry list. This is what I need. I need someone tall and fat, short and skinny, introvert, extrovert. Well, since I have this kind of sense of humor, I need this guy. They make a long list, and then they go into the marketplace to find the one who comes closest. It's what I call the Mr. Potato Head. You know the little kids game, you have to choose the feet, the lips, you have to make your Mr. Potato Head. Everybody makes their Mr. Potato Head, and then they go in the marketplace. Are you? No, not you. No. Oh, you? No. I can't find my basher. I don't know why. I've been going out and I can't find them. I looked here, I looked there. I just can't find them. You know why you can't find them? Because you're not looking for the predestined one for you. You're looking for your Mr. Potato Head, the one you formed in your private laboratory that you made. You're trying to find out there what you made up here. And guess what? You're not doing it right. You see, when you're going out, you're looking for the one that Hashem predetermined for you, the one that Hashem predestined for you, the one that matches, the one that fits. And guess what? You don't know if she's tall or short, brilliant or dumb. You don't know anything. And the only way you can know is you go out and you feel a sort of sense of, it feels right. It just feels comfortable. And again, it's not wow, it's just, it feels right. And many people decide that they're going to play the game their own way. And I'd like to ask you a question. What if you decide, I'm not using Hashem's system. I'm in charge here and I'll do things my own way. What happens? Would you like to know what happens? Watch the following. Imagine it's Rosh Hashanah. And imagine I'm standing in shul, my talis over my head, and I'm davening, beautiful kavanah, and all of a sudden I hear a heavenly voice, Shafer, yeah, I've been sent from it. Wow, I've been sent to tell you, this year you'll make $1 million. Whoa, $1 million, this is great. A malach told me I'm going to make $1 million this year. I leave shul happy as a lark. I quit my day job, I don't even open the papers. I know what's going to happen. I make $1 million. It's going to be great. What do you think is going to happen that year? I'd like to share with you, if I quit my day job and don't work and don't do anything, I'm going to go hungry that year. Because you see, when Hashem decrees that I will make $1 million this year, there's a proviso, provided I do my part. My part is to go out there and earn a living, to get a job or invest or whatever I'm supposed to do. But you see, when Hashem decrees you'll make this much money, Hashem does not hand shackle, Hashem doesn't handcuff a person to a particular result. There's something called free will. The basher, the decree is, this is accessible, this is available. And if a fellow wakes up one morning and says, you know, this whole going out thing, forget it. It's just so much of a pain. I am sick and tired, and I'm not going out with another girl ever again in my life. Would you like to know what's going to happen? Most likely he's going to be single until he's left this world. Because Hashem doesn't force you to any result. When it's decreed, it's accessible, it's available, but you got to go out there and do your part. To earn a living, you get a job. When you're sick, you go to the doctor. And when you're looking for your soulmate, you go out there and look for your soulmate. The one that Hashem determined, Hashem predestined, not your version of what you'd like, not your version of what you want, not your Mr. Potato Head, but Hashem's version. And folks, I got to tell you, I see this on such a regular basis that no one does this. And they always come back after 6 months, after a year, after 5 years of going, I just can't find her. A fellow once approached the Stipler Gaon, this is maybe 30 years ago. Stipler Gaon was one of the Gedolei Yisrael. And this young fellow, who was then 25, said, Rosh Yeshiva, when am I going to find her? When am I going to find my bashert? The Stipler was known as a person with Ruach HaKodesh. He looked up at this fellow and said, when are you going to find her? You passed her up when you were looking for the best girl in Brooklyn. Hashem doesn't force you to marry your bashert. Hashem doesn't force you to do anything. It's decreed that this is the right one for you. But you got to take her, you got to go out there, you have to be willing and open to do what you're supposed to do. And if not, I don't know, all bets are off. And if you find people, and I've done this by the way, and this is not a criticism of older singles, but I've done it time after time, and older singles will come to me, and I hear the saga and this tale, and I feel badly. And invariably, I'll trace it back and find, aha, that's when you passed him by. That was the woman you should have met. Get it? I try to be gentle, and I don't be too strong about it, and sometimes I keep my mouth quiet. But it's pretty obvious and pretty clear. And folks, this is a very big deal, because if you decide you're not working for a living, you're going to go hungry. If you decide that I know what I need, I know exactly what I need, and I'm not settling. You might very well find that you don't know exactly what I need. By the way, how many single people have been married 20 years or more? How many, let's say, 22-year-olds have been married more than 20 years? Anyone? No, not too many, right? Because if you're 22 years old, it's very unlikely, A, you were never married before, something happened for 20 years. What am I saying to you? After you're married 20 years, you have a shot at maybe knowing well the person you're married to. But I'd like to share with you a much more obvious point. Let's imagine today you're 25 years of age. Mitzvah Shem, you're going to get married to the right person, and you're going to stay married for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, maybe 50 years. Do you know what you're going to be like 20 years from now? Do you know what life circumstances are going to bring you to? Do you know what your personality is going to be like in 20 years? Not many of us do. So how in the world do you think that you know well enough to choose what I need 20 years from now? I know exactly what I need. I need a woman who's extroverted. I need a woman with a sense of humor. I need a woman who has a very good eye for things. I know what I need, and I'm not going to settle. That's very impressive. If you had the wisdom of Shlomo HaMelech, maybe we could argue whether you're doing something intelligent or not. But if you've never been married before, and you don't understand the institution of marriage, you don't know what you're going to look like 20 years from now, you certainly don't know what your wife is going to look like, you don't know what life is going to bring you, how in the world do you think that you know what you need? And guess what? You don't. And I've been there countless number of times. It's guys, it's girls. They say, I'm just not willing to settle. I know what I need, and I'm not willing to settle. The worst case, I had a guy once, this is great. Second round, he had gone out with this young woman. The first time, they went out, I don't know how many dates, and it was almost, dropped her. This is second round, and they're going, and he's stuck. And he says, Rebbe, I got to talk. I said, fine, let's go. I got to go somewhere, you'll take a ride with me. And we're in the car. And I'm asking him again and again, tell me, what do you feel? Do you enjoy your company? Yeah. Look forward to the dates? Yeah. So what's holding you back? I don't know. It's just, there's something stopping me. Do you enjoy your company? Yeah. Do you look forward to it? Yeah. So what's the problem? And I said to this young man, you know, the problem that we have is that I can't tell you what's stopping you. It could be the reason why you can't move forward is because she's not the right one for you. But it could also be the reason why you're not moving forward because you want the trophy wife, or you want the whatever your version of what you're supposed to have is, and that's blocking you. I said what we need is Eliyahu Navi. We need Eliyahu Navi to come here and tell us, is this the one that Hashem wants you to marry or not? At which point he said to me, I know she's the one that Hashem wants me to marry, and that's what I'm angry about. I said, what? Say those words again. Say those very words. He said, I know that this is the right one, and that's what I'm angry at Hashem for. And I said, wow, that's astonishing. Those words are huge. And folks, again, I've been there so many times with a young couple, whether it's him, whether it's her, and when you really get down to it, I know what I need. This is not what I need, and I'm not willing to settle. And if you'd like to be smarter than God, you can try, but it's a pretty rough game to play, and it's rare that you're successful at it. And these are the two big problems. Number one, I know what I need, and then there's a second problem that stops people from using the Basher test. That second problem is that I'm not in love. Listen, I would love to move forward. Going out, she's just what I'm looking for. She's at this advantage and this advantage, and it's all perfect, but I'm just not in love. Rabbi, what do I do? What would you say? Well, certainly if you grew up in Hollywood as you're not in love, you can't get married, right? Because we get married because of love, and then we get unmarried when we fall out of love, right? That's how Hollywood does it. Okay, I'd like to share with you what I've said countless numbers of times. The only couples that get me scared are the couples who are like, oh, he's perfect. He's just so perfect. You get that glassy-eyed look like, she's like, kind of like. Folks, scientific studies show us that a young man or a young woman, when they're infatuated, there are real changes in their brain chemistry. The type of changes that happen with cocaine use. The same neurotransmitters, the same increase in dopamine, serotonin, the same increases in those neurotransmitters parallel cocaine use. Because they're high. Oh, she's perfect. Wow. And would you like to know what that means in plain simple language? Excuse my saying it. He's dumb. If you think she's perfect, listen. By the way, my own wife said this. This is crazy. We were at Chassan and Kala, and I heard her on the phone, and she's talking to a friend of hers, and she said, I know it can't be, and I know no one's perfect, but I'm telling you, he's perfect. And I'm sitting there, I'm not the one to tell you this, but man, you're for a rude awakening. I mean, it's not the way life is. But you know why those type of couples get me a little bit nervous? Because the shuras haseichel, the intellect, is shut off. You ever notice that in the United States of America, there's a 50+ divorce rate? 50% of marriages, are really up to 67%, depending on how you measure and who does the studies, end in divorce. Yet every one of those couples walk down to the altar till death do us part, but they part long before death grips either one of them. But they were so wildly, madly in love. They were so wildly, madly infatuated. Infatuation is a strength that Hashem gave a couple to help begin the process, but it's not the essence of a marriage. The essence of a marriage is a commitment. The commitment builds a bond of love, and it's love that requires a tremendous amount of work. The infatuation, the puppy love stuff is cute. Some couples have it to a large extent. Some people have it less. Some people don't have it at all. But it's almost irrelevant. It's a aid. It's a siyua. It begins the process. But it's not a criteria for determining if this person is the right one for me. There is only one intelligent criteria that we're supposed to use, and that is this the one that Hashem determined for me? Is this the one that Hashem said is for me? And folks, this is a major point. Everyone asks the question, 40 days before a person is born, a baskol, a heavenly voice comes out and says, Bito leploni leploni, the daughter of so-and-so is to so-and-so. So everyone asks the question, what good is the baskol when I don't hear it? What good is the heavenly voice when there's no neon sign pointing to this one? Rav Wolbe quotes in the name of the Chazon Ish that when you're going out and you have that sense that this is the right one, not those rockets on the 4th of July, not the mad infatuation, it just feels right. That is the baskol. Hashem speaking within you, telling you, go for it. But I can't be certain. Of course, you can't be certain about anything in life. If you've done the paper test, and then you do the Basher test, and it just feels right, it just seems to work, that's a sign you're supposed to move forward. And if you think that this conversation is only applicable to people who are going out and not applicable to married folks, I'm sorry to share with you, this is a big factor in a successful marriage as well. I was dealing with a couple, and they were married 6 months or so, and things were heading south really bad. They were fighting, and it was really ugly. This was many years ago. The Shmuz that my Rebbe was still alive, and I had the opportunity to take this couple to the Rosh Yeshiva. And Rosh Yeshiva sat with them for not long, maybe an hour, and after that little meeting, their marriage changed. They're now married. This is more than 20 years ago. Successful, beautiful marriage. And I'd like to share with you what happened in that office. Shmuz Zatzal brought them both in, and he listened a little bit. And then he asked the fellow to step out, talk to the young woman. And then he asked the woman to step out and talk to the young man. And that 1 hour conversation changed their marriage radically, completely, and now they're happily married. So you're probably wondering, what was the magic? Was it a kameya? Was it some bracha? What's the secret? Would you like to know what the secret was? It's actually very interesting. The fellow was a Talmud in Yeshiva, and the Rosh Yeshiva knew this fellow. And this fellow was a very successful young man. And he held of himself, and maybe he held of himself a little bit too much. And when they both came into the office, what the Rosh Yeshiva was listening for was one simple thing, the level of respect. And he quickly picked up that he did not respect her, because he felt that she was not on his level. So he talked to him for a while, and then he asked the fellow to leave. And he spoke to her, and he didn't speak to her about much. He just asked her some questions, what's going on, etc., etc. And then when he asked the young woman to step out, the young man to come back in, Shivaz said, you know, she's a very impressive young woman. I'm very impressed. Then he asked the fellow some questions, and the second time he said, you know, she's a very impressive young woman. I'm very, very impressed. And he asked a few more questions, a few more points. And then the third time he said the same words, very impressive. I'm very impressed with her. And that changed their marriage. Why? Because to this young man, his Rebbe, Shivaz just gave a stamp of approval to his wife. And she went from here to here, and all of a sudden, he was now able to make peace with the fact that maybe it's his problem, and it changed their marriage. Why do I share that with you? When you're married 6 months, a year, and you get to that moment where most couples get to, and they say, oh my goodness, I made the biggest mistake in my life. I married the wrong one. And by the way, 60%, 70% of the couples get that moment. Sometimes it's him, sometimes it's her, sometimes both. I made the biggest mistake in my life. Nope, you didn't. What you've now discovered is that marriage is about a beautiful union, harmony, and about a lot of work. Because each of us human beings have things that we do well and things that we don't do so well. And Hashem designs the partnership to be perfect for both to grow. But growth is not always so easy. And growth is not something that comes so quickly to us. I don't like to change. I certainly don't like to hear that I do things wrong. And I don't like to be on the receiving end of the obvious facts that I mess up on things. And when you understand one simple premise, that this person was brought to me not by my wisdom, not by my understanding, but by the Creator of the heavens and the earth. This is my predestined, my predetermined, and Hashem knows better than I what I need. then you're able to do the work of marriage. Whether it means learning to keep your mouth closed, whether it means to learn to pick your socks up off the floor, whether it means to, whatever it is, and every single couple has their own intricacies and their own little nuances. But once you accept fully that this is the one that Hashem determined is the one that's best for me, not mediocre, not kind of settling, not like, I could have done much better. If only I should have gone out, I should have married that one, and that one. If you accept the fact that Hashem is the one who runs the world and Hashem brought you this person, then you're able to do the work and you're able to enjoy a beautiful, harmonious marriage. And I think this chazal is very eye-opening for us. There seems to be a contradiction. I'm supposed to accept the fact that Hashem determines how much money I'm to make, yet I have to be machazik myself, I have to work very hard. There's no contradiction. Hashem runs the world, and I have to understand that Hashem is totally involved in the running of my day-to-day life. When I walk out of here, as I walk down the stairs, as I get behind the wheel of my car, Hashem is there. I don't take revenge against another person because you can't harm me. You can't help me. You can't harm me. You're powerless. I walk around with that lucite bubble. Hashem is there protecting me 24/7. And yet Hashem has commanded me in acting in a specific way. Noah had to build a teva. It had to be so long and so wide. That's as much as you could do. You can't be expected to do more, but you have to do as much as you can. Yeshua took the armies and said, let's go. We have to go to battle, because that was the derech hateva. And Shmuel said to Hashem, I can't go. It's dangerous. Because our job is to go in the ways of the world. That's what Hashem wants us to do. And when I do that, I have to know it's completely Meis Hashem. My actions don't make a difference. I'm going through the choreographed fight scene. It's not my punching. It's choreographed exactly the outcome that's supposed to be will be. And that's the guiding principle for everything that we do, for earning a living, for health, and certainly for choosing a mate and being happy with that person. And I want to close with one last observation. I've heard it so many times now that it's, excuse my expression, coming out of my ears. I could have done better. Listen, I'm not unhappy, I'm not miserable, but listen, between you, me, and the lamppost, I could have done better. I could have. There was this one and that one, and I look at my friends and they have this, and I could have done better. All right, listen, I'll make my peace. This is what I get. Okay. Would you like my comment on that? A very simple commentary. Here we go. Ladies, you'll appreciate this easily. Imagine you have a wedding 2 weeks from now, and you find the perfect outfit. It's great, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful, you look attractive in it, and it's even sneeze, not too tight and long enough. Okay, wow, it's amazing. Only one problem. You need shoes to go with it. So you start shopping, you look for this place, you can't find it. You need the right pair of shoes, and you can't find it. And you're looking, after a week you still can't find anything. The day before the wedding, you walk into DSW, and there they are. Oh my goodness, they're gorgeous. Look at it, the leather is exquisite, the workmanship is good, and oh my God, and it's on sale, half price. Wow! Only one problem. They're 2 sizes too small. But come on, I can't give these up. Come on, the wedding's tomorrow, and the price is great. And look at this, it's so fashionable. You buy them, you put them on, and you wear them for the wedding, you dance for 2 hours, and you come home that night. And what do you discover? Your feet kill you. Why? Because the leather can be beautiful, the workmanship can be exquisite, it can be cheap, but if they don't fit, they're going to hurt. And gentlemen and ladies, I'd like to share with you, if you're married, it's likely that you could have done better. Yeah, you could have gotten somebody smarter or richer or better or whatever, and guess what? It would not have been a fit for you. And if you find the best girl in Brooklyn, but she doesn't fit you, life is going to be Gehenna. And if you find the best guy, oh, I could have gotten this guy, he's so responsible and so fat, wow. But he's not a fit for you, you are destined to be miserable. You're not looking for the best person, you're not looking for the best you can do, you're looking for the right one, the one that fits. And what do you know about that subject? Folks, not a lot. Because when you begin hanging around life long enough and you study couples and you study marriages, and you quickly see that there's a huge amount of wisdom that comes into knowing what I need as a person, what will be the right match, what will bring out my strength and complement my weaknesses, that will be with me 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. You and I don't have that kind of wisdom. Our Creator does. We rely on Hashem, and we depend on Hashem. Our job is to go out there and do our job, which is to find the right person. and Hashem grant us the wisdom and understanding to put this into practice. Before I stop, I just want to mention two things. Number one, again, there are a number of products for sale, not the least of which is the marriage seminar. I highly recommend this. I can't tell you, and I spent 3 months because just dealing with the problems and the issues for years. It got to the point where I was getting sick, so I spent 3 months really putting things together, and I think it's a pretty comprehensive guide to understanding marriage, and people have told me already it's made a tremendous difference. I highly recommend it. Again, it's deeply subsidized. It's only $35 for the full set. We also have a number of books. Also, before I stop, this is a Shmuz. All the Shmuzim are available on the shmuz.com. They're all free. You can download them, podcast them. You can listen online. The only thing you have to remember is that it's spelled funny. Now, if that's too difficult, and it's the 21st century, so going online is too difficult, take out your smartphone and you could go to the Shmuz app. If you go to the Google Play Store, if you go to the App Store, you can download the Shmuz app. It's also free, and it's just a click of a button, and that way you don't have to actually go online and listen and download. It's right on your phone, so you do it on your smartphone. The only thing again you have to remember is that it's spelled funny. It's THESHMUZ, and you can find, by the way, everything on there, the Shmuz, the marriage seminar, etc. So please avail yourself of it, and again there are books and etc. outside. Thank you.